What's up, tubers? Tio here, Simplistic Fishing, coming back at you tonight to do a lake breakdown overview for Broken Bow Lake out in Oklahoma. We're going to start off on the Oklahoma Wildlife Department fishing page here to see what we can find out about this lake. Beautiful, beautiful lake. I've been there a few times. Nice and peaceful, clear water, lots of offshore fishing like we talked about, or that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But anyways, lots and lots of good fishing here. Let's scroll down a little bit. There's not too much to put here. The lake report kind of cracked me up. Elevation is normal. Water temperature 87 degrees. It's September 25th right now. So if you're wanting to kind of get an idea, but it's funny because it says here bass, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, and spotted bass are all good on Alabama rigs, bill baits, crankbaits, inline spinner baits, plastic baits, spinner baits, spoons, topwater lures, and around brush structure coves, main lake points, and standing timber. Basically, it's saying that the fish are biting and you can throw whatever you want. It was pretty funny. So anyways, thought that was kind of a funny fishing report. Good luck trying to figure out how to take that fishing report and put it to good use. But at least it's got good news. The fishing's good out there, right? So scroll down a little bit, talks about the species of interest. I mentioned it before, but they have several largemouth bass here, smallmouth bass, and spotted bass. They've got striped bass, channel catfish, flathead catfish, walleye, crappie, white crappie, black crappie, bluegill, both different kinds of bluegill. So this lake has it all. Definitely has it all and lots of different opportunities. So let's jump out and let's go. That thing actually caught my eye. Did you see that little fish there? That's an interesting looking fish. All right, so anyways, let's go switch over to the Google Earth side and let's take a look at what we found from the satellite imagery, and then we're gonna switch over to the Simplistic Fishing Mobile App and take a look at the contours on this lake and show you all the different offshore fishing spots that this lake has to offer. Let's go. Well, here we are out on Google Earth, and I just want to show you guys how we have this lake broken down into different kind of sections. Now, I recently did an update to Broken Bow and updated all the offshore hotspots, so I've added several of them in there. If you got the digital downloads, I've sent you an email to let you know, hey, we've got the updated files. If you purchased the files before and you want the updated files, just shoot me an email, tyler@simplisticfishing.com. I'll verify that you purchased it and I'll get you the new files as well. So let's jump into this and let's take a look at how this lake is broken down. As I mentioned, this is a very beautiful lake, very quiet, very peaceful, definitely a place you need to go check out if you're in the area. So let's look at how we have this thing. First off, we've got bridges, culverts, and roads. Now the good news about this is that with the new integration that we have with Navionics and Garmin, we can now see the bridges and culverts without having to mark them all, which is pretty cool. But this was prior to us having access to that on the mobile app where we couldn't actually see it. So we had to go out and mark all the different bridges and roads, and maybe we missed them, some of them, maybe we didn't, but these are the key ones that we found that we felt like could really be good areas for you to fish around. So you can see here, we got a little bridge that's back here. These underwater bridges are deadly places to find fish. Underwater bridges and culverts, they stick out like a sore thumb on most of your contour maps, and they are great places to go find fish. Again, lots of bridges and culverts, and I'm sure there's many, many more. When we go out and we look at it on the contour map on Navionics, we'll see if there's any more that are out there, but definitely great places to go fish. Now we also have all the channels and ditches marked. So this is gonna be where any of the main channels are coming in. You're gonna see where we mark them. And so basically what we do is we draw the water down, and then we look to see if we can see where that channel is. And if we can see the channel, we'll mark it with that track. So that way when you're back there fishing, you know exactly where the channel is. And here's a little secret as well. Anytime you see channels like this is more of a ditch, but still, you've got a ditch that comes this way, and then you've got this main creek channel, right, that's coming this way. Anytime you see those intersections, those are even higher percentage spots. Anytime you can find the intersections. You don't find them too often, but the intersections are really, really key. Those channels are key, obviously. Fishing around the bends, here's another intersection back here. Fishing around the bends are definitely key. These aren't as long, so you don't really have as good a bend. You got a little bend right there. Maybe you got some more that are up here that you can get. There's another really good creek channel swing right there on that one. So several different areas to go and fish around the creek channels. Some really good creek channels up there too. So definitely want to take a look at those. Then let's take a look at cover and structure. Now, this one's a little bit harder, right? We're talking mountainy area. I guess some of you guys would laugh and be calling them mountains, but it's definitely a higher elevation area, rocky banks, steeper elevation, stuff like that. Anytime you find we get into lakes like that or more highland reservoirs, it's a little bit harder to find things from a satellite imagery standpoint as far as laydowns and stuff like that, because a lot of times the water doesn't really give us what we need. But anyways, we got quite a few stuff here. We got several different laydowns, some spots I wanted you to check where we've got some really good little hooks and things like that. Another area here I wanted you to check, more of a creek channel swing going on there. Got some laydowns out here by these humps. Got some saddles to check out. Another thing you may want to look at too when you're out here fishing is pay attention to those transitions. And if you don't know what a transition is basically where it goes from one thing to another, right? So like right here, it's going from dirt to this rock. Now, depending on how far this rock comes out, hopefully it comes out here, that transition line right there between the rock and the dirt is a really good place to fish. Now, those aren't that good of transitions, so those are more man-made transition lines, but let's take you back over here. And I think there was a transition line on one of these. At some point in time, I can't see it right now, but at some point in time, I could see a transition line on one of these points, and it was really obvious. It went basically rock to dirt. And so if you can find those spots where it makes that changeover, fish that changeover, fish on that line, on that break where those things are. Some other things to take a look at, obviously, be creek channel swings. If you see any sea swings back here, these are going to be good places to look. We looked at this earlier when we were looking with the when the channel was there. I even pointed this one out and said there's a good swing. Anytime you find these swings where the creek channel swings up and gets right up against that bank line, that's going to be a key place to go look at for sure, because it's just going to help you out a ton. Now here's a spot up here too. So it looks like I possibly found some shell here when the water was down. Now I don't know what year I was looking at here, but if I pull this back, I bet we can find it. And we can zoom in here and we can see that there's a little bit of something going on here on these little areas right here and right here. So definitely some stuff to take a look at. Don't know if it's shell or not, but definitely something there. We got brush piles as well that are marked. And then again, just lots of different laydowns. Some different areas where there's timber, standing timber to take a look at. I'm gonna move this back up to 2025, get a better image. But some areas where there's some timber that we marked as well. There's another one of those transition lines, but just lots of cool stuff to take a look at. Now, what I think is really cool about this lake is the offshore stuff though. I think this is just kind of icing on the cake, right? If you're beating the bank, you can take advantage of this stuff, but the good stuff is the offshore stuff. Now let's take a look. We've also got foundations here. Now foundations are tricky. Looks like we've only got one foundation marked here. Let's see where that one's at. We got to double click it so it takes it back to when we imported. We got a foundation right here off of this hump. Now if you're using the app, you'll be able to see that really quick, and you can see the coordinates of it even quicker. And we're going to switch over to the app here in just a second. We've also got ramps and slabs. Now typically, I would say, you know, on these ramps and slabs, these are great places to fish. Now the challenge that you have on this lake is there aren't very many of them, right? There's just a few ramps on here, so they're all gonna be those big public ramps. So maybe not the thing to do on this one, but if the lake's calm, there's not very many people there, fish around those ramps. You'd be surprised at how many fish you can catch right by the ramp. It's nuts. All right, then, last but not least, we've got rock. Now there's a ton of rock on this lake, and we could probably mark every piece of this lake as rock. So what we did is we went out and we marked like the key areas of rock, maybe where we found boulders or where we found cuts or where we found key areas where you got rock on some points and stuff like that. So we've got those marked all throughout here. Now that rocky stuff's gonna be good, right? When they get up shallow, get up there with the square bill. You can even get up there with an A-rig and get parallel to some of these spots that have this rock. Let's say you could even get parallel to this dam down here and fish with that A-rig, or you could go out here on these points and fish with square bills and hit up the shallow rock areas around these points and things like that. Come out here. You're a little bit further out, but obviously that's not gonna be very deep right there, right? So you could possibly even hit up a crankbait here and have even more success than what you would going down the bank. So finding these little rocky spots that are off of the points are really gonna be your best spots. Or if you can find like a steeper bank line, which I think you get that step more up here, get the steeper bank line and get parallel to it, more like those bluff lines, and then throw your A-rigs and things like that. You'll have some success doing that. All right, so that takes us for the breakdown for Broken Bow as far as the Google Earth side. shows us everything that's out there, some pretty cool stuff. But like I said, I think the money on this lake is definitely going to be from the offshore standpoint. So let's switch over to the Simplistic Fishing app and let's take a look real quick at the offshore hotspots that this lake has to offer. Now we're on our last step, and that's to go out and take a look at the offshore hotspots. And as I mentioned before, you've probably seen some of the promos from Simplistic Fishing, but we've just recently partnered with Navionics and Garmin to give us the HD contours of the lake maps. So basically this is what we used to see, right? And then now this is what we see. As you see it loading in, you can see all the different contours. So super cool. You got these filters up here. You can go back to the satellite and streets if you want. I've got the filter waypoints turned on, but you can go up here and turn on the labels and turn everything off. You can see everything. Now I'm in test mode right now, and these labels are black. They're actually going to be white when you guys see them. So unfortunately, I've got to get that updated. But let's go here. Let's go take off these waypoint labels. We're going to go up here to filter waypoints. You can see all the different filters we have here. I'm going to go and say offshore. You can see I've got to click there, and then we're going to go back to the map. Now this is all the offshore hotspots that we have marked, and you can see if we're just looking at it from a satellite perspective, it doesn't really make much sense, right? We can click it, it tells us, hey, this is an offshore hotspot, here's your location and everything, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what is there. You can't really tell. But if you go up here, that'll actually say contours. When you guys see it, we can see all the different offshore hotspots here that I've marked. Now, I do want to admit, this lake took forever to mark the offshore hotspots, and there were tons of them. So there's a ton of stuff to look at. I did miss a couple of things, so I'll point those out. One's going to be right here. This little hump right here looks pretty cool. There's also another hump right here that looks really awesome as well. 12 foot on top. Don't know how I missed that one. So there's a couple that aren't marked. And then over here, zoom out a little bit, show you guys where I'm at. So I'm going to come up here to this little area right here. It's got a nice little high spot right in here too. It's got some pretty good humps. You've got one hump here at 22. You got another hump here at 25 and 24. So you've got some pretty good humps. Now this lake, like I said, has a ton of offshore stuff. You can see all the different offshore stuff when I zoom it back, you can see all the different spots. So let's just pick a couple spots out here to talk about. I mean, obviously there's a ton of them, but, or actually, let's do this. Let's talk about if it's fall, right? So in the fall, what we're gonna be looking at is we're gonna start at the back and we're gonna work our way towards the front. So a little bit different than working your way from the front to the back, right? Like you would in the spring and the fall, we're gonna see where they're at. So let's go back, let's just say like we're gonna go back right in here, right? We're gonna go back to this little area back here by the state marina, I think is right here somewhere, up in here. I think it's right in there. And my apologies, my internet is slow today. So here we go. We're gonna start back in here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna come back into the back here, right? We're gonna be back in here. And really what we're looking for is we're looking for bait balls. So we're just gonna turn on that side imaging and we're gonna look for bait balls. Now more than likely you're gonna start finding them over here, like around these little bins. You might find them right in here, like around this little culvert. If you don't find them there, start working your way up. And as you work your way up, that's where you're gonna start looking at these other offshore spots, right? This nice little point. They could be out here hanging off this point chasing bait. They could be here chasing bait, corralling them into the backs. So these little secondary points can be really good. Sometimes these rounded points can be good, especially if you can find any type of cover or structure around those points or something like that. Also down here, right, you can see where the creek channel clearly comes down here. You're getting more bluffy walls down here, right around these points, right? They could be pushing them back here. They're on their way pushing them back. What we're doing is we're starting ahead of them and we're gonna work our way back up to them until we can find them. And so you'll really want to pay attention to these points. These points are going to be key. And if you can find any spots where you've got humps that are out there too, towards the back or towards the middle, those are going to be key spots as well. But you can see here, we've got several points that we can check out. So you could literally launch your boat over here at the marina, right? Launch it over there and then work your way over here and just scan each one of these points until you find the bait balls. Once you find the bait balls, it's time to go fishing, right? So that would be more my fall kind of pattern that I would take on this lake. And I would do that throughout, right? I'd go up in all these different places that are up here and really just work that same type of pattern. The other thing too is when you can find these points like this one here, where you can see where the arm swings back here, right? Well, it comes back here and it comes to this point. This is basically like a stopping point, right? So they could easily be corralling back bait off of this point or getting ready to push it further back into these areas. And when they're pushing back into those areas, you'll want to look at these little secondary points too. You can see where there's clearly a creek channel or something going on here that's causing these little breaks. And they'll hang around these breaks and push them up against those breaks to do the feeding on them. If you can't find them there, then you're just going to start backing out, right? You're going to come back out here and start hitting up these other points and looking to see, again, where those bait balls are. If you don't find the bait balls, you probably shouldn't even be fishing, because it's not worth it right now. In the fall time, you've got to chase those bait balls. All right, then let's talk about, let's switch back over. Let's say it's summertime, right? So in the summertime, we're going to pull further out, right? We're going to get more out towards the main lake, probably more towards the deeper water, and we're going to be doing more forward-facing sonar, Carolina rigging, deep diving crankbait, stuff like that. In that case, you've got a ton of opportunity on this lake down here on the southern section. Let's zoom in right here. Let's just take a look at this area right here, because there's 25 different spots you can take a look at here. So the good news here is that you have tons of offshore fishing spots on Broken Bow. The bad news is you have tons of offshore spots on Broken Bow, which means you're going to have to do a lot of scanning. You're going to hit a lot of these spots. There's not going to be anything there, but then you're going to hit that one spot where they happen to be chasing that bait, and it's just going to be great. It's going to be a magical day. So pay attention to the creek channels. And if you're fishing in the summertime, like we're talking about right now, pay attention to these humps. These humps will be great places to go find fish, and you have plenty of them to go take a look at. All right, sound like a plan? And then if we're talking, we kind of talked about, spring. If we're spring, we're just going to start on the front, right? Start on the front of one of these coves. Let's pick one here. Let's go down. Let's zoom back out. Let's go up. Let's pick this one. All right. So we already talked about it. We said if it's fall, early fall, we're going to start in the very back and work our way out, right? Until we find the bait. If it's spring, we usually start at the top and work our way in until we find the bait. And if it's the winter time, usually what I'll do is I'll start about midway, right? So I would get in here probably somewhere, maybe right around in this area. And I start looking at stuff that's a little bit further off, right? Maybe look at these points, maybe look at this island that's out there. Might come over here. These points look really good as well. Fishing around these points where these ledges are. Places where they could hang out for a long time and be able to get up to shallow water if they want to go feed, but get into pretty deep water to be able to stay warm. And those are key places. And again, guys, there's tons of them on this lake. As I scroll here, you can see them all. Really cool hump out here. When you get up here in this more river system, it gets pretty cool. You got some really cool looking bluffs that are up here. You got awesome little points here. Here's a great looking little fall point as well. Like in the fall, if they're out there off the points, they haven't gone all the way back in yet. They're still pushing them on these points. These flat top points can be great places to look. And this one's cool because it's got the flat top, but it's also got the creek channel swing that swings over here. All right, guys, so I won't go into all these offshore hotspots because there's too many of them to talk about, but hopefully that gives you some ideas of what to look at when you're out on Broken Bow. If you want all these waypoints for your graph, go out to simplisticfishing.com and get them. We've got them on SD cards, and we've also got the digital files that we can send you to that you can convert over to an SD card and then import it into your graph. Or if you don't want all that stuff on your graph and you just want to use the app like I'm using today, just go out, download it. It's on the App Store, it's on Google Play. You can get it today and be on your way. So anyways, guys, until next time, I hope you catch your PB.